What is up, Bush Leaguers? Boy, do we have an episode for you. It's full of exciting college football action. It's full of would you buy into this team or not? And it's full of a lot of money making. So without further ado, I got my boy Merch over here with me. How do you do?
Doing good, man.
Always good to hear. Always good to hear. Hope you're ready to kind of jump right into it. I got this first game that I want to talk about. You might have heard of it, Michigan versus Maryland. Being as how we're in the state of Maryland, I would hope you've heard of it. I do believe it's going to be a tough test for our boys for the red, black, and yellow because going into Ann Arbor, facing, in my opinion, one of the nation's top defenses, and clearly in the eyes of the college football committee and the rankings committee, they're very highly respected, sitting at number 4 in the rankings. I think Tagovailoa, the other one, not Tua, is going to have a tough time going into Ann Arbor. Maryland's offense, quite honestly, has been electric these first 3 games. However, these first 3 games were games that one would call a tune-up game. So it's going to be really tough to say that their offense, especially with that young running back Hemby and Jarrett and among others catching the ball for Tagovailoa, how they're going to fare against an actual Big Ten opponent this year. And I just think that Michigan, being at home, having the better defense, better coach, I don't even think they have the better quarterback, but I still think that with their defense, their offense can put up enough points to cover their minus 17, which brings me to another point that I have that in a couple of parlays, actually. So I'm really hoping for that. But not only am I hoping for that, I truly see it happening. And I think you do as well. So maybe hear from you on a couple of your thoughts about this game.
Yeah, so for our $100 challenge this week, I did take the Michigan minus 17 for one of my bets. Strictly just because of the history. I kind of looked up the history between the two teams. The last 10 times that Maryland and Michigan have played each other, Maryland's won 1 and Michigan's covered 17, the other 9. So I'm just kind of rolling with the history there. I do think Maryland's offense can put up some points, but like you did say, Michigan, I think, does have a good defense. And Maryland's offense really hasn't been tested by a good defense yet. But they do have playmakers all over the field. Like you said, with Tulia, with Hemby, with Copeland, with Demas. They got Jarrett, like all kinds of guys. But the thing that scares me with that game is Maryland's defense. Maryland's defense does not look super hot. Last game they had, I don't even know how many penalties. And when you're going to Ann Arbor, which is hostile, and a team that's basically needs to win to prove themselves that they can go back to the college playoffs, I just really think that Michigan has to kind of run up the score on them a little bit, just to kind of prove to everybody that even though they played 3 of the worst teams so far, that against a above average team, they can blow them out too.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think that they're going to be putting on quite a show. It's kind of like somebody going into their prove it year of a contract, except it's a whole team going into, okay, now do what you did last year, do it again without some of your key players. Because I forget exactly who they lost in the draft, but I know that they lost, and not even just in the draft. I know they lost. Bro, why can I not remember his name? He went to us too. He went to the Ravens. The that defender. I'm gonna get shit for this, but anyway, they lost a bunch of their key players, but I still think they're as good, if not better, than the team from last year. And I think that they're going to have a really tough test against Ohio State, and I don't think that they're going to make it to the college football playoffs ultimately. But I think that they can prove a lot of people wrong with some of these games that they have coming up. This is one of them.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. I didn't take this, but I can see quite a bit of points being put up in this game, as we've been talking about. I mean, it seems kind of obvious. I think Michigan is going to dump some points. Hopefully, for the sake of our covers, Maryland doesn't dump enough points to cover, but I hope Michigan puts up enough that I would feel comfortable taking the over in this one. And speaking of over, brings me to my next game that I have an over in a very key parlay that we'll talk about a little bit later. That would be the Clemson Wake Forest matchup. It's not exactly what you would call a meeting of two titans this year. Clemson, while still, Christian may not like him. He may think way lower of them than I do, but I mean, Clemson is still Clemson. Clemson is still coached by Dabo Swinney. And as long as Dabo Swinney is there, Clemson will be relevant. Clemson will be there, will be winning games. They may not be winning games in the prettiest of fashion, especially with DJ Ugly Boy at quarterback. I don't know how to pronounce his actual name, but from his throws, that's what I'm going to call him, because he's not the answer to Clemson. He doesn't seem like your typical Clemson quarterback, who I know Clemson doesn't really have like a style. They've put out T-Law, who is not the same as Deshaun Watson, who is similar but also not the same as Taj Boyd. And DJ looks like he fits that mold, athletic-wise, build-wise. But to me, the football IQ is not at a Clemson level. And I said all of that to say this. He will still put up points against Wake Forest this week. Seeing as how Wake Forest is coming into this week off a squeak by win against Liberty, who is without Malik Willis, and in my opinion, not that relevant to the college football scene anymore, although they are emerging, and no disrespect, but Wake Forest winning 37-36 against Liberty scares me for an ACC matchup against Clemson. Not that they're going to lose, but just my internet connection is unstable, apparently. Okay. Well, I don't know what I was saying, but anyway, Wake Forest is going to give up quite a bit of points, and Clemson is also going to give up quite a bit of points. I also would like to think that Wake Forest covers the plus 7.5 in this one. I don't think that they win, just being as how Clemson is the bigger name. But then again, upsets do happen. And if you have anything else that you're thinking about this game?
So I actually took the Clemson -7. A lot of people are shitting on DJ, and obviously for good reasons. I mean, he hasn't really lived up to the hype that he should be. But this is kind of like a make it or break it for Clemson. Like, they have Wake Forest on the road, and then I believe they have NC State at home, which if they can beat those two teams, they're kind of coasting until they get to Miami, which is, I think, not the last game, but the second to last game of the season, where those next few games are all in favor of Clemson and could put them potentially back into the college football playoffs. Like, Clemson for 3-4 years was the team. They beat Alabama. I know that teams change, obviously. Like, teams get better, teams get worse, but there's always those core teams that stay where they are. Now, I think Wake Forest is kind of on the up. They're starting to win some games, starting to get some, like, they're starting to get not high end recruits, but they're starting to get more recognition. They're starting to win some of those games that they normally wouldn't win.
Yeah.
being at home definitely helps too. But I took it -7. So there's a chance for me to push. I don't think Wake Forest blows them out by any means. I think if anything, it's going to be close. Wake Forest wins. I could see it being like a game-winning field goal or overtime win. But with this being kind of like a prove it game to kind of shut up all the haters for Clemson, I think they're going to go out there. I think they're going to play hard. I think DJ, if he struggles, people don't realize that Clemson has a 5-star, another 5-star right behind him. So if he struggles, they can just put the freshman 5-star kid in, and you never know what's going to happen with him. So I'm rolling with Clemson -7. I think they beat him by 10, 14. I think they go out there and I think they beat him up pretty good.
I can see that, but also there's the flip side of what you're saying with the being DJ's prove it game, where even though they have that 5-star backup, he is still a freshman. And I think ultimately, I do think Clemson wins. I just don't see them winning by more than 7. I think that Wake Forest, even with the scare last week, I think keeps it close. I could honestly also see this game going into overtime. Clemson eking it out by a touchdown. Maybe they hit the 2-point conversion, but I still think that Wake Forest comes back and answers. And I think that I don't see a scenario where Wake Forest doesn't cover this +7. But I'm also almost out of the challenge, so I'm not the best person to be taking this advice from.
And I'm also up like $40-ish.
Yeah. And college football alone, you're what, 17-6?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah. So basically, he has way more knowledge in this than me. But I just want to give you my 2 cents. I like Wake Forest +7 in this one. You can go ahead and lock that in.
Yeah, we'll see.
Hey, this next one, definitely go ahead and lock this one in. It's Baylor, Iowa State. And I know what you're thinking. Baylor struggled. They're probably the worst 2-1 team that you've seen in a couple of years. They lost to BY freaking U, who got dismantled by Oregon, who got dismantled by Georgia. And so, by the principles of that, Baylor is trash. However, Iowa State is equally as bad of a 3-0 team as Baylor is. And recent history with Baylor, Iowa seems to point Baylor's way. I had my evidence pulled up, but I put it away. So give me just a second. Insert Jeopardy music here.
Do 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 do. And on this break, we'll shout out Busch Light, the always delicious and savory tasting beer.
Remember, not a sponsor, just delicious. You should try it.
I mean, name another beer that when you open it, it says its name.
Yeah, anyway, so after a brief break from our sponsors.
Not actually sponsors.
Not actually sponsors, but sponsors. Essentially, if you're listening. Yeah, anyway, just last year, they beat Iowa State 31-29. Year before that, 38-21. I don't know. My internet is slow as shit because I'm not on the Wi-Fi, so my computer can use the Wi-Fi. Not 21. My bad. 38-31. Anyway, point is, Baylor +2.5. Hammer it. If you have any other thoughts, I'm all ears.
My thoughts are Baylor. Don't do me wrong again. So Baylor was one of the games that I had gotten wrong when I took them plus 3.5 when they played BYU, which went into double overtime and screwed me. So I really don't want to get hurt by them again. But I will say Baylor was one overtime loss away from, I believe BYU was ranked at the time. They might not have been. Yeah, they might have been. So they lost to a ranked team in double overtime. Iowa State hasn't played anybody besides Iowa who looks just as bad. And that might have been the worst game I've ever seen in my entire life.
Dude,
it was 10-7.
I don't want Iowa brought up on this podcast ever again. They're horrendous this year. They're terrible. Iowa State, that's not even a win. They might as well be 2-0 with a practice game.
Yeah, so it's weird when the better team is favored, and I've gotten screwed on this twice now. So I was very hesitant on taking it, but if I go 0-3, I'm never doing it ever again. But I'm going to roll with it on this one, and I took the Baylor plus 1.5.
Yeah. Now, with that logic, it makes sense to say that with Baylor being plus 2.5, there's a chance that we're either stupid or the books know something that we don't know. And Baylor is going to get break our hearts yet once again. But I don't see it happening. I'm being safe and taking the plus 2.5 in case there's some freak fluke. Iowa State wins by a field goal in the last second. But truthfully, I would feel confident also taking Baylor's money line at plus odds. A ranked team against a non-ranked team, you more often than not are going to take the plus odds on the ranked team.
Yeah.
Yeah, Evan out here trying to send me another trade mid podcast.
Yeah, I got one too. Don't worry.
Anyway. Now that I've hit that, I've got to get back to our games. But I can tell you that our next game is Wisconsin at Iowa State. And if you'd like to take the lead on that, Ohio State. I didn't mean Iowa State. I was still on the Baylor game, I bet. If you want to take the lead on that one, as I'm still trying to load the game.
Yeah, I mean, if you want me to take a lead, I think this is. I don't really understand why this is a 7:30 game on ABC because it is going to be an absolute bloodbath. Wisconsin, they're 2-1, but they're not good. They're going to be a 7-win team at most. It's the West Big Ten. They're all bad. Every single one of them except for Minnesota. That's the only team from the West that I have any respect for. All of the other teams, I think, are just bleh. They play a boring style. They give up too many points. It's basically not even part of the Big Ten. On the other hand, Ohio State, I mean, the spread is 18.5. I think they drop 30 on them. I think it's going to be an ugly game.
I think that spread is very, very underestimated. If I was making this game after watching Wisconsin lose to Washington State in Wisconsin, and I saw that they were going to Ohio State to play at a 7:30 game on a Saturday. Granted, even if I went to Ohio State, I don't know if this is one I'd be using my student ticket for. But I still think that, Ohio State's going to produce a crowd because Ohio State produces a crowd. That's what they do. They're good in football. People want to come watch them. And for that reason alone, I'd honestly put this spread at minus 28.5. I think that makes it an even match. I think giving Wisconsin 28 points, you could very well see a 41-20 win. That still covers the spread, or you could see a 58-3 win, from Ohio State. But the point is, Wisconsin's not getting close to 17 points against Ohio State. You hit the nail right on the head with that one. Wisconsin sucks. Wisconsin's so bad. So
they have a good run game, and that's about it.
Yeah, CJ Stroud has as many completions as Graham Mertz does pass attempts, and almost doubled his touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, for his defense, they are a run-heavy team, like extremely run-heavy team. But when you put a run-heavy team, you stack the box and you make them throw on you. Turnovers. How many ugly?
It's not going to be a good game. That's for sure. That was almost like an alien was talking to me for a second. So if I was looking at you funny, that's why. But I still got all of what you're saying. And yes, Wisconsin. I don't see Wisconsin scoring more than a touchdown.
I think other than that, I mean, there's 2-3 other good games that I liked that I didn't necessarily touch with being Florida and Tennessee. Tennessee was minus 10.5, which I think they can cover, but I'm not 100% like sold on Florida yet. With them being good or bad, I'm actually really surprised by the quarterback play at Florida. I really thought I'm drawing a blank on his name now. Richards.
Anthony Richardson.
I thought he was going to be way better, and I think he only has like 2 touchdown passes or something like that.
No touchdown passes and 4 interceptions.
Yeah, something crazy like that. Yeah, I was really surprised. I mean, the dude is crazy athletic, so he can get it done on his feet, and he hasn't had the luck passing, obviously, with that. But they've still been pretty competitive with that being like with the turnovers and all. But I don't know. I think Tennessee, they're kind of getting screwed over with their schedule because I believe they play Alabama and Georgia. They didn't play both of those teams. I think they could roll and be a 1-2 loss team. I think with that schedule, I think they'll drop 2 or maybe 3. But I think they're a really, really, really good team this year.
I agree. And I mean, bias, even with bias, Tennessee at home this year with the team that they have, 10.5 is nothing against Florida. I'd like to say that Florida would make it a competitive game, but like I just said, Anthony Richardson has no touchdown passes and 4 interceptions, and you may have been competitive against the other 3 teams you played, even kind of sort of competitive against Kentucky, which you lost. However, I don't see that kind of play mixed with their leading rusher has carried the ball 25 times for 240 yards, and I don't see that holding up well either. If Anthony Richardson can't get it going and the running game can't get it going, I don't even see Florida scoring 17. Maybe they score 13, 2 field goals and touchdown.
Yeah.
It's easy cover for Tennessee, in my opinion. But no cover is ever an easy cover, as they say.
Yeah. One of the other games that I did take, because being an Ole Miss fan, I love the SEC, and the SEC has all the best games. I'm not biased. It is true. It is a fact.
You're right.
Anyways, the Arkansas at Texas A&M. That's a pick 'em. It really is. Arkansas is good, but I'm a big believer in big programs aren't like big football programs won't be bad. So like Notre Dame last week, they were 0-2. They just lost to Marshall. They were playing a 2-0 Cal team. They were at home, but they also had a backup quarterback. I still took that money line because big name programs don't lose that many games in a row. Were they losing? Yes. Did they come back and win? Yes. Did they almost lose on a Hail Mary? Yes. But those big programs just don't stay bad. Like And that's kind of how I feel about Texas A&M. Like Texas A&M isn't like the elite of the elite, like they should be with all the money that they put into NIL. But with them being at home and have already lost a game, and they're not even and they're not even in the toughest part of their schedule yet. I kind of like them with that. If I was gonna I didn't want to touch it just because I think Arkansas has a better offense. But I think the being at home factor, already losing that game, and this is kind of like a you need to win game, or like you're out of the top 25.
Yeah.
I think A&M can kind of clutch it out. But with that being said, I did take the over. I got the over at 48.5, which I think is a little bit low. I mean, A&M has had a kind of hard time scoring, but when you're at home and it's a big game, I think they're going to win. But Arkansas has been known to put up points. KJ Jefferson's dog said that before.
All right. Yeah.
I think it'll go over 50, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think I bet that one up to probably 50.5. I don't think I'd touch it over that. I don't even think I'd touch an under over that. It just would be too risky. I agree. I like Texas A&M in this one personally. I didn't think anything on it. I didn't think anything of it really. I just, if anything, I'm probably gonna watch this game and live bet it, because at that point it's either watch Kentucky, Northern Illinois, or the end of one of the other games. I mean, who wants to watch Kentucky versus Northern Illinois? Nobody. So I'm gonna tune in, put my ass on the couch. I'm gonna watch some live bets. Or not watch them live. I'm gonna make some live bets. But then I'm gonna tune in for the Wisconsin Ohio State game, even though it's gonna be a blowout. I need that over.
Yeah, and then I guess the last game that the spread kind of surprised me a little bit, and I think this team's kind of underrated a little bit, is the USC and Oregon State. Oregon State is minus 6.5, which I thought was kind of strange just because Oregon State hasn't been good and I don't really know how long. They're at a 3-0 start, which means I could be getting screwed like BYU did to Baylor. So I'm a little nervous about it, but I shouldn't be, because Lincoln Riley has brought back USC. I don't remember if I said it in our very first episode when we were talking about the predictions for the top 4.
I think you did.
But yeah, I'm really kind of buying in on USC. I mean, their offense looks good. Their defense kind of struggles, but also the Pac-12, and every defense in the Pac-12 is a struggle. But I could totally see them running the table. And touchdown. Oregon State, to be completely honest, like I don't think they've been relevant for a while, and for it to be 6.5, I just think that Caleb Williams goes out there and lights them up.
That brings me to a point that I wanted to make when I put this game in here to talk about is USC is a fucking wagon, dude. USC this year, I mean, they've been what? They were minus 11.5, minus 9.5, and then it was either minus 9.5 again or minus 8.5. Now they're down to minus 6.5 against an Oregon State team that's not ranked. Barely played anybody that's relevant. They played Boise State. They won a good game. Made some money off of that one live betting. It was a good time. In fact, I can't even remember who they played the past couple of games because they're not relevant. USC is going to come in here and steamroll the shit out of them. Lincoln Riley going to bring his best game plan, even though, in my opinion, it's Oregon State. Don't need to bring your best game plan, but he's going to do it. Caleb Williams is going to come out there. He's going to execute it. And that's really going to be the end of that. They're going to score one touchdown, and they're never going to give up a touchdown lead. I would truly take this one wire to wire if there was an option.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think if USC gets the ball first, they can go down and score. Oregon State, they could go down and tie back up, but I think the offense at USC is so high powered and just a gunslinging offense that I think that they just let it rip against them. As long as they don't turn the ball over and nothing crazy happens, it's a night game and it's at Oregon State, so that I guess that plays a factor. But I don't know. This one just kind of really surprised me. Maybe we're all sleeping on Oregon State.
Right.
They did put up a ton of points in their last 3 games, but
Yeah.
they also didn't play USC.
Yeah. And also, it may be a night game for us over here on the East Coast, but for them, that's a 4:30 game. 6:30. My bad. So it is kind of a night game, but I mean, still, it's not really totally a night game. Even if it was, I don't see any problem for USC.
Yeah.
Speaking of problems, for which we need none of, I kind of wanted to use that to bring us into our bets for the week. So without further ado, here are our last two segments. We have for you our locks of the week. And well, okay, one of them is a crazy parlay, but I'm still going to call it a lock. And we will be presenting a couple of teams to each other. Neither of us knows which teams we've chosen, and we will be choosing whether or not we're going to buy into them. Kind of like the stock market, only it's for college football teams. So let's kind of go ahead and get right into it. I have a game here that we did not talk about, but that I do have a little bit of action on, and that for the challenge is Kansas minus 7.5 against Duke. Kansas this year is a little known wagon, and they are at home this week against, I don't want to call them the super weak ACC opponent, but compared to like your Clemson's, your Miami's, even your Pittsburghs and North Carolina States, North Carolina, even every other team in the ACC, but they're playing Duke. And Duke is all right, but Kansas is just playing some sort of like movie script football this year, and it comes with having 0 5-star recruits and 3 4-star recruits. And they are at the moment undefeated. They've got wins against West Virginia. They've got wins against teams. I'm going to cut this part out, but they've got wins against Houston. And honestly, I can't remember who they played week one, but because I wasn't paying much attention to them, I started paying attention to them when they beat us. But that doesn't really matter at this point because they're playing beyond anyone's expectations, and it's great to see. And they're just gelling. They're going to come out here and they're going to kick some Blue Devil ass, and you can go ahead and lock that one in. I also parlayed that with two of the other games that we talked about earlier. I went ahead and put that with the Baylor plus 2.5 and the Michigan minus 17. That would be my parlay of locks I would consider. And then we got Big Daddy. And this one's a very special one to me. It is a 6-leg parlay consisting of the Clemson Wake Forest over 56.5, for which I believe wholeheartedly in. The North Carolina money line against Notre Dame. And I know that you're very, very high on Notre Dame, and good college football programs are not bad. But this Notre Dame team is not a winning football team. And it's no knock against them, but their backups don't have the talent to come into North Carolina against a very hyped up North Carolina 3-0 squad, who by all means, I don't think that they're the shit, but I think that North Carolina this year is playing on a better level than Notre Dame. Therefore, North Carolina at home, I'm probably going to take that all day long and have no regrets, even if it loses. I don't think Notre Dame has the talent to win this game, and if they do, hats off. But speaking of another team that I don't think can beat a better team than them, and that is Oregon money line, took that over Washington State. Washington State is another one of those Cinderella-like teams. They're not the greatest, they're not the worst, but right now they're playing like they are on top of the world trying to get a college football playoff spot. They're doing pretty good. Came into Wisconsin, beat them, held their own last week. I don't remember who they played. I know that they won, and I did follow that game, and I'm not just making bullshit up. But Oregon, after getting their ass eaten by Georgia, has come out with a fire lit under their ass. Again, not the greatest team in college football right now, but they're ranked and they're okay. And they will beat Washington State. I couldn't tell you by how much, so I didn't touch spread because fuck that. They're minus 280 money line as it is. Still lock that in. And then go ahead and lock in Oklahoma minus 12 and a half. Another game we didn't really cover too much, but Oklahoma, like USC, absolute wagon for me this year. And I have no other reasoning other than they've been a wagon for me. Followed by my all-time favorite wagon this year, USC minus 6.5 as a virtual lock. And then we finished this leg or this parlay off with the sixth leg at Wisconsin, Ohio State over 56.5. We've already talked about this one, and it's a lock. Don't worry about it. This one is for the challenge to put me up, pay me out 669.75, which in terms of our challenge would be fantastic. So there's those. I think maybe you had one or two bets that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Unlike you, I did take Notre Dame. I took that money line for the exact reason why I had mentioned them earlier. Historically great programs do not play bad. And they're at home, I believe. So that's another reason why I'm going to take them. I kind of rolled the dice a little bit. I took Indiana plus 16.5. They're playing Cincinnati, who lost their entire team last year, but they're still they're hanging in there.
Yeah,
they only lost the one bad game.
They're okay.
Week 1, Arkansas, which they were kind of competitive in, but I mean, Arkansas still kind of handled them pretty good. I think they beat them by like 17 or so. But I took Indiana. They're undefeated. They've scored some points. I don't think they will get blown out, and I also don't think that Cincinnati will put up a ton of points. So I think I can get like a little bit of a backdoor cover. I don't think Indiana's going to win by any means, but to lose by 17 or more, I think I have a good chance with that. The only other game that I took that we haven't talked about was the Oklahoma minus 12.5.
Yeah.
I think they can win by 2 touchdowns. I think they win in general. So winning by 1 touchdown or 2 touchdowns, I figured I'll just risk it. But I am also up $40 on the challenge. And let it be known, we only have $100 to bet with. And when you're betting multiple games, you can only put in so much money on it. So that's our prize fund isn't incredible. But with Liam's parlay, I kind of really got happy when he put some of the things in because I had some of the opposite things. And with Liam being down $55 and me being up, I kind of felt a little bit more confident with my picks after I made them. But we'll see what happens.
As you should. I mean, yeah, this is not hitting. It is, but it's not hitting. It is.
Yeah, but we'll see. I mean, I think eight bets in this week, so I really only had the one bad week where I lost by half a point because I believe it was Georgia Southern decided to score a touchdown at the end.
Yeah, I don't know what was up with that.
Yeah, I believe that was UNC. They were up 21-3 at the half. Feeling really good about it. Yeah, and I got screwed. And yeah, we'll see what happens. So far, I've been okay with college football betting. NFL, I've been really, really bad with, so I'm not touching it for a little while. But yeah, that's all I got for the bets.
Hey, you know what? You got to do what you got to do. But uh, speaking of not doing so good with the NFL, and this actually has nothing to do with the NFL whatsoever, but I am going to go ahead and get into our next segment here. And that segment is the college football stock market, where we'll each be giving each other three teams from the college football world, and we will be just deciding whether we want to buy into that team or not. Like the stock market, you see a stock, do a little bit of research, say yay, you say nay, and that's how that goes. So, without further ado, let me go ahead and kick things off here. I got a couple of teams for you if you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right, the first one we have here is Oregon State.
I'm selling. I'm selling. They're 3-0 right now. They're going to get demolished by USC, and then it's just going to go downhill from there. It's a Pac-12 team. There's maybe one, maybe two Pac-12 teams I'll buy into. Oregon State's not one of them.
I don't blame you. I totally would sell it as well. Next one being Kansas.
Kansas. Is it going to be a long-term hold? Are we talking just this season, or are we
That
talking for a
that's up
while?
to you.
So right now, I will sell them, and I will sell them before this game because I think that they could totally lose this game, and all the hype train on Kansas being the undefeated team is gone. For a long term, I don't necessarily know if I would buy more or if I would hold on to that team for the reason of two powerhouse teams are leaving Big 12. Texas and Oklahoma will be gone. Not next year, but in a few years, they'll be gone. There's going to be some other decent teams that are coming into the Big 12.
Yeah.
But if Kansas kind of goes on a little bit of a tear here with the NIL and then being more of a basketball school, which can make them a lot of money as well, they'll be able to have more NIL money because they're profiting off of two programs instead of where a lot of these other teams are basically getting it off of football. They could kind of shift to be a somewhat decent team, not that joke team anymore. So if we're talking this season, I'm selling them. If we're talking down the road, I think I might hold on to them. Not necessarily buy more, but I think I'd hold on to it.
I agree. I think if I was thinking in terms of actual stocks, I would put them on a watch list and keep what I have as well. I think what they're doing right now is kind of putting people on notice, and it's kind of giving them a little bit of exposure. I do agree that this season the hype train is probably going to die off. Like I don't, with their schedule getting tougher as the season progresses, for what they are. Like I mentioned, they have um, 0 5-star recruits, 3 4-star recruits, and when you compare that to a lot of the other teams, like just in the Big 12, perhaps. And I'm glad that you brought up the powerhouse conferences leaving because they are the top two. I know Texas is number one. Oklahoma may not be two. They might be three. I know they're two or three. In terms of recruiting, I think Texas had 60 plus 4-stars and well over well over 15 5-stars. I don't remember the exact number, but they were like eye popping numbers, and that's just the Big 12. Like imagine the SEC where they're going to be considered like low ends.
Yeah.
I don't see the hype train dying off this weekend because of my bet mostly, but they're definitely a watch list hold right now. I agree. Uh, but this last one, I'd like to see your opinion on. I have Florida State for you.
Damn, that's a good one. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Florida State. I think I'm gonna buy. I really think I'm gonna buy. I think that Florida State has been down for a while. Get enough recognition this year, then they can recruit a little bit better, like upcoming. Um, a lot of people that aren't big into college football, but still might know it. Travis Hunter, he was the number one player in the country, was committed to Florida State and decided to leave to go to Jackson State, which blew everyone's mind. But I think Florida State could be on the come up. They went through a really, really rough patch, but you got to think of the ACC. There's Wake Forest, who's on the come up, but if Florida State is that team again, they're gonna beat Wake Forest and they're gonna knock Wake Forest back. So Wake Forest, who is finishing in the top 25, could potentially not finish in the top 25. Same thing with Pitt, and honestly, the same thing with like NC State. They're those teams that are kind of borderline. They're kind of riding the wave of the top 25. But if Florida State can keep knocking off some of these teams and get a big win out of one of those this year, I think they can be like they can come back. I mean, who wouldn't want to go Florida State?
I
So I'm gonna buy that one.
I think this for me is another one of those hold situations, watch list. Um, just because I want to wait and see. I like what they're doing right now. I think that they finally found their identity offensively with what's their quarterback's name? Is it, Francis or Francois or
Yeah.
something like that? Yeah,
I don't think he's there anymore.
I thought he was. I
I
think
could
he's
be
still
totally
there.
wrong. He might be.
You might be wrong. I might be wrong. One of us might be wrong. But point is, whoever their quarterback is now, I know that he's found his identity. The offense has found his identity. Um,
Yeah, it's
I think
100% not Francois.
who is it? I know who it is.
Jordan Travis.
Yeah, that's my bad. I don't know why I was confusing him with Francois.
That was like 3-4 years ago.
Whatever, dog. Listen, that's about the last time that they were relevant to me. Like I haven't really
True.
been keeping up with Florida State, but this year they've kind of got me, wanting to see what they do because um, they're 3-0 right now. They they've played some good teams. Like they haven't been like top tier like greatest teams in college football today, but they've played some respectable teams and they've come away victorious. And I think if they keep gelling, keep rolling the way that they're rolling, I'm buying, and I'm probably not selling for a couple of years. But right now, I'm gonna put them on watch, see what they do for the next couple of weeks, and then we'll come back to this segment. We'll see what we would do then.
All right. I guess I'll give you my three. And my three is for this season only
Okay.
and for right now.
All right. I'm
Penn
ready.
State.
Starting off with one that makes me think. In all honesty, I think that I'm selling right now.
You're gonna sell them right now at 3-0.
I think that I'm going to sell them right now at 3-0 because I don't see them making a huge push. I don't see them winning their conference. I see them probably losing at at most 3 games. And for that reason, for this season in college football, I'm selling Penn State right now at 3-0.
All right. I was gonna probably, if it was me, I'd probably hold on to them for a little bit longer. They got two what should be for sure wins, and then they got Michigan. So
Yeah, I'm
if I'm
kind of
if I'm
that's a
thinking
loss.
stock market, I'm holding them for those two. They should jump up a little bit higher in the power rankings, going 5-0. Sell them right before the loss. Got to think of it like a stock
I
market, man.
yeah,
You got to buy them now, hold them, let them go up a little bit in rankings, sell them.
yeah.
So, so now
I'm
that you got that thought process,
now that I have that
ready?
one, let's see this next one.
You ready for my next one?
Yeah.
Ole Miss.
That previous thought process in mind. a win. That's a win. That's a toss up. I honestly, I'm holding them and then I'm selling them next week with that thought process because I don't truly know if they can beat Kentucky, and I not an Ole Miss fan like you, so I'm coming at this with probably I don't want to say more clear logic because I know that you're not like one of those fans, but I think Kentucky this year kind of has the juice. I think that um, they're a better team than Ole Miss, so I think that that is their real potential for their first loss, and it just so happens to come next week. Um, so with that, I'm holding them. I'm probably not going to make that much more profit, but I'm selling them next week before kickoff.
As much as I kind of want to agree with you, I'm kind of scared to play Kentucky next week, but I will say Ole Miss in all of college football, their defense is ranked third right now in points per game. There's like one scrub team that hasn't played anybody. I can't remember who it was. That was number 2, and number 1 was Georgia. But the Ole Miss run game has been so phenomenal, like completely unstoppable. We are running Georgia Tech, which Georgia Tech isn't that great this year, but they're still in a Power 5 conference. Like they should have put up somewhat of a fight and at least made us like worried a hair.
Yeah.
But the thing with Ole Miss is because the run game has been so good, we haven't had to throw the ball like we did last year. And yeah, we don't have Matt Corral. Jackson Dart is only a sophomore, but we have more on our offensive that I think at home, first big game against Kentucky, I think we knock Kentucky off. Then I think they win the next 2 games. Then I'd probably sell them before, like right after or right before Alabama. They have Alabama at home, which Ole Miss has been that weird team that's been able to beat Bama in the past like 5-10 years.
Oh yeah, I know.
But I'm not saying that that's going to happen by any means. I think it's going
the
to be.
likelihood is
I,
very small.
I think it's going to be a competitive game. I don't.
I would take Ole Miss to spread in that game though.
Alabama is everyone is used to. Like they're used to having absolutely stud receivers and stud running backs, and I just don't really think that they have that this year. They're kind of relying more on the quarterback play and the defense. So I think they are a beatable team this year, which, like I said in the first podcast, I could totally see them not making the college football playoffs because of teams like Georgia. I think Georgia's going to run the table. I think they're going to win the SEC. So that's one team. That means if Alabama has to basically run the table and lose to Georgia, I think Clemson can go undefeated. I think Oklahoma can go undefeated. I think that USC can go undefeated. I think there's plenty of teams that are in out of conferences that could go undefeated and get a bid spot before Alabama. But not to get super off topic, I think I'm gonna not necessarily buy more of Ole Miss, but I think I would hold on to them until the Alabama game.
I just can't. Like I don't know. I just think that Kentucky probably beats them. In my opinion, like I know it's first big home game, but I just think Kentucky's a better team this year. Therefore, I would probably sell them. Uh-oh. Well, pardon this interruption, folks, as he is frozen right now.